Howdy, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Movie Reviews with DEADPIT. It's like fucking Siskel and Ebert, except in this particular case, it's Uncle Bill and the Creepy Kentuckian. Look here we are.
Yeah. So we're going to be those trendy motherfuckers that tries to get this review out very quickly. Now, I didn't stay up late for an HBO Max late night view, and I think it would have been early on Friday morning to get that review out. But by God, we're getting it out kind of quick. It just came out this past Friday on HBO Max. It's a movie that's received a decent amount of hype for an original horror film. You know, it's not a part of any franchise or anything.
You better get hype.
Our good buddy, the tiny Asian Australian filmmaking wizard, James Wan, is back in the genre. And this time it is Malignant.
You know, we were talking about how shitty things have gotten since COVID a little bit earlier, and I can remember like going to a midnight movie screening. We called it the Wanathon, and it was just a screening of James Wan movies. Like me and Savannah went, and it was, I think, Insidious 2, like right when it came out. I think they showed them like both back to back, and I mean, it was just amazing, like that you could do shit like that and not have to worry about it. Now here we are in the middle of all this horse shit.
Well, you can have a Wanathon on HBO Max. Maybe.
That's true. That's how much things have changed, yeah.
Whatever.
In like 6-7 years.
Yeah,
but
I mean, the little bit of I was reading about this movie though. This movie was made 2 years ago, so this is kind of another victim of the COVID-19 epidemic, which, you know, everybody's talked about that until you're blue in the face, really. But I mean, this is one that they were kind of holding on to for a while. Warner Brothers / New Line, and I guess they just decided to bring her out. I think it is in some select theaters, but mainly HBO Max.
Yeah, and I gotta say, like, I knew nothing about this movie going into it. Absolutely, like, blind. You know, didn't read anything about it. Didn't look anything up because I don't really like to do that anyway. But for some reason, it got a lot of hype, but nobody was really talking about like the actual plot of the movie. So that was good in this case.
I kind of stayed away from it too. I didn't read anything about it. The trailer is, I don't know if you watched the trailer before you check the movie out. It's very vague. It tries not to give much away in the movie, which is good too.
Yeah, the poster doesn't give anything away either. Like, you'd think it was a fucking slasher film or something if you looked at the poster.
Now, there's our good friends and money-making brothers at Waxwork Records. They've got a vinyl of it out that kind of hints at a little bit of what the big unveil is. But the marketing behind this, I think, overall was pretty good. The movie itself, too, like, I was kind of surprised with it. I know it's one that is kind of mixed. Like, people you either love it or you hate it. There's not really a in-between, which is interesting. But I gotta be honest with you, most of the movies that James Wan has directed, at least in the horror genre, I've really, really liked.
Yeah, even the stuff that didn't get a lot of, like, press, like, there was the Insidiouses and the Conjurings and stuff like that, but, like, Dead Silence and things like that were also, I thought, good films, the ones that didn't do as well.
The same year, Death Sentence came out that fall.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I remember it opened the same day as Rob Zombie's Halloween and really got the shit kicked out of it that weekend. But
it's a good movie, though. Kevin Bacon. I mean, that was a good one as well. Eli Roth kind of remade that movie when he remade Death Wish because it was basically the same movie. But, well, okay, so how do you talk about the plot of this movie without giving something away?
We're going to have to do a spoiler, like a 20-second spoiler alert or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're actually going to do a full-on review of it to talk about, you know, what the big unveil is now, I highly recommend that everybody goes and checks it out beforehand. But we'll go ahead and get into the movie. It starts out in 1993, in some sort of hospital ward or something like that. And I didn't know, like, they kind of show a creature that is, like, killing all kinds of people, and he's locked away in this room, and you don't know if it's an alien or what the fuck it is, right? But he's killed fucking all kinds of people in this old hospital. And then, like, that's only a brief, maybe the first 5 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
And then you fast forward to, present day, 2021, whatever. You follow this girl named, I think her name's Madison, who is pregnant. She has an abusive relationship with her husband. And all the while, there is kind of I don't know if you want to say it's a sense of dread throughout even this part of the movie, or the filmmaking, the music and stuff like that, I think, is interesting choices, to say the least. But her husband's abusive, and I think they say something about her losing babies, multiple babies, and other pregnancies and all that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Just kind of out of nowhere, what I wrote down here is the entity, I didn't know what the fuck it was, visits their house, and I think it kills God damn it, here we're already giving shit away, but it kind of wastes her husband, and she is, injured and loses that baby as well. So, from this point on, it's kind of almost like I don't know if you'd want to say a giallo movie, kind of. There's elements of a lot of different types of movies in it. The creature, the entity, or whatever you want to call it in this, has the long black coat and long hair, and you can't really make out a lot of the features.
The black gloves
that
black come gloves along with giallo to you.
So, there's some detectives. There's other people that I think Maddie actually has visions of these other murders before anyone actually knows about them, maybe as they're actually happening. But she doesn't, that she's actually ends up being a suspect from the authorities, due to that. So, that's kind of your setup. When the movie starts out the first hour or so, you're not really knowing what you're dealing with here. Is it something supernatural? You don't really know. And I think the backstory too is Madison was adopted, so she has some sort of mysterious past as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that a lot of moving parts in this movie going on at the same time. So she's got a sister that's like her adopted sister, that's like one of the main characters in the film, who, like, along with her adopted mother, is trying to help her kind of piece together like what kind of shit happened to her in her past, because there's apparently like some sort of trauma that happened to her like before she was adopted, and that becomes like a big part of the movie too, is them trying to, like, it's like a detective thriller almost, like them trying to piece together like what is going on and why, this person is following her around or whatever, and like what the connection is, because they find out pretty quick that this person is killing all these people that are connected to her. I'll say that. Like, that's
that hospital as well. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And so, like, that's the start of the film. And then, I don't know, man, what's it like, probably about 90 minutes into it or something, it gets fucking batshit crazy. Like, everything kind of comes together, and there's definitely a climax. And that was probably the best part of the movie to me, was there's a scene in the movie where, like, they put all this stuff together, and simultaneously, like, she is in jail, and there's this huge scene that's kind of the big reveal scene that's like, it's great. Like, that's where
you find out exactly what's going on.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And it's no secret, like, James Wan is a huge fan of 80s horror. That's what he grew up on. And there's elements of all kinds of different stuff in a lot of his movies, right? And there's no denying it in this one too. James Wan, and I know people just fucking, like, I don't know what it is. Some people fucking hate him, like, as far as the filmmaker goes. But technically, man, like, he is great at it. Visuals, I think that I actually kind of like the music in this. I know that you were saying that you weren't a big fan of it.
No, I mean, like in a way, I guess I can understand why they did it because they were definitely going for something that was outside of the normal horror film score. But to me, it sounded way too much like those fucking horrible virtual reality movies that came out in the '90s,
Yeah.
like Virtuosity or something like that. Like even like the first Matrix, in a way, like it had that music to what was going on in the film, and I'm just like, how that doesn't match it at all. Like the tone of the movie doesn't. So I mean, some people like will really love that because it's completely different, and I was just like, it was too much, like too in the opposite direction of what the movie was about for me, and ended up like making me. It took me out of the movie because I was like, this fucking music's killing me. It's like Prodigy or something.
Yeah, I mean, the movie's not perfect. There's definitely some issues with it. Like the Gabriel is who ends up being the. I mean, that's the name of the entity slash killer in this, or whatever you want to call it. So he's like a parkour expert or something, right? He's running around diving on shit, flipping off stuff, and everything else,
Right.
right? That looked fake. Like all that stuff kind of took me out of the movie because it was all computer generated. That was not a person. That looked like somebody in Resident Evil doing backflips and high
It
cross
did.
bodies and
It
stuff.
got a little bit Resident Evil-y there towards the end. It really did. And I don't know if that was intentional or if he just didn't have the budget to do like what he wanted to do, but it really did kind of like, I don't know. There was parts of it. I mean, I don't know. There were parts of it that I liked at the end and parts of it that I didn't. And that's pretty much the whole movie too. Like it had like its good qualities, it had its bad qualities. The design and the look of the killer I liked, but like you were saying, when the killer moves and some of the actions, like they had to do it CG unless they got like a really amazing like stunt person or something, because just of the way that the design of it is, like it would be almost impossible to do that in real time. But it does come across pretty fake. Like I feel like they could have done something better somehow or another with that.
So I guess this is the spoiler section of the review. So if you don't want to hear the spoilers, you can go ahead and turn the video off or fast forward a minute or so. The big unveil in the movie is, and there's hints of it, and it's called Malignant. That is the name of the movie. So if you look up the definition of that, you can kind of figure out what's going on. I didn't initially. I didn't really even think about it. But the whole deal is Gabriel was it was conjoined to the back of Maddie. And that's why she was in that hospital or home or whatever. So they try removing the Gabriel, the entity thing or whatever. And she always, as a kid, had always had that voice in her head. And kind of the goofy part of it is they actually like push part of Gabriel's head back in her skull and stuff. I'm like, what the fuck? Get in there!
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, Gabriel is basically another. It's an alter personality for Maddie, really. I mean, it's the easiest
Well,
way to describe
here's the
it.
thing that when I was watching this, like it hit me like a ton of immediately. Like James Wan has to be a huge Frank Henenlotter fan because like it's actually taken from two of his movies, which is Brain Damage and Basket Case. So in Brain Damage, like the little creature Almer is injecting like drugs and stuff into this guy's head, and it lives at like the base of his spine so that he can like mind control him and get him to do whatever he wants to. And of course in Basket Case, like there's a joint twin, and that's really the whole plot of this fucking movie, man. Like the whole plot of this movie, and that kind of, I don't know, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way that he couldn't come up with anything better than a plot that had already been done in this movie, because it's exactly the same. The plot of Basket Case is that Bilal and I forget the guy's name, are both walking around killing the doctors and nurses that like did the operation that separated them. And the fucking plot of this movie is the exact same thing, with the only exception being like it's not like a separate thing. It's actually still in her.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's the same plot.
It's kind of a interesting movie to come out in 2021, though. I mean,
Yeah. It's an update. Yeah, I swear to God, it's a fucking reboot of Basket Case,
Yeah.
which is great. But I mean, that's what it is.
With a couple of changes, it almost could have been a Basket Case remake, really.
To me, it is. Like, I mean, it's like they're not calling it that, and there's enough of it to be different that I guess that you could, it could be its own standalone movie. But yeah, I mean, I could definitely watch this movie and just be like, okay, here's like an updated version of Basket Case, and that's not a bad thing, by the way. It's just lazy. So I mean, whatever he wants to do, like I think he's gotten to the point where he's really depending on '80s movies to make his own movie. But at the same time, I mean, if you can do that and bring it to the masses and people not really realize what it is, but it still be awesome, then that's good. And I think he's kind of done that.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's cool that he come back to the horror genre. You can tell he must be a big fan and must want to do these movies because he was doing like big budget Hollywood stuff there for a while.
I mean, the one thing I'll say about it is like I was kind of iffy about it when I found out what the reveal was until like that end sequence, and then I was like, oh, all right, this is like, I mean, at least he went all out. Like he didn't fucking mess around with it or try to be subtle or it's like a Hidden Loner movie and how like crazy and outlandish it is towards the end. And he goes like completely all out, which is the thing that saved it to me. But otherwise, it's just kind of, it's like a murder mystery that's like a Basket Case ripoff. Like I couldn't get that out of my head when I was watching it. Like if that wasn't for the last 20 minutes of that movie, I mean, it's just not anything other than that.
Well, there was when the stepsister was going to that old hospital and shit too. Come on, man. That looked like a fucking painting or something. There was a couple of scenes where the CG, like whenever she's, what was the morphing thing where she would go into different.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that too, yeah.
Yeah. So it's not perfect by any means. But I think people honestly, like, I don't know if they were expecting too much or what, but for what it was, I enjoyed it. I thought it was fine. It's not the best thing that's ever come out, like some people have said, but I didn't think it was horrible.
No. And I do think it'll be one of those movies because of what it's based on that will be forgotten pretty quick. It's just too like outlandish and out there. But you talk about a movie that is not ever like made today. That would be like a type of movie that is that you never see that shit anymore. Like on a mainstream basis, like you see maybe some independent movies like that, but
for sure, and for James Wan as well. Honestly, this wasn't the typical like jump scare type James Wan haunted house movie. It's a little bit different sort of movie than he's done. So maybe since Saw, I mean, it's not like Saw, but has elements as well, I guess, of it. But
I think that's kind of why I didn't like the first half though too as much, is because there's a lot of that shit from like The Conjuring in it, with just like when he's killing the doctors and stuff, where there's he's in the background waiting for him, and then he jumps out and like it's like, oh shit, like I was just like, this is going to be another one of those type of movies where that's just like that. But then like the end is like, no, it doesn't go that direction at all. It goes like straight up bloody massacre kind of craziness, which is good.
Yeah. So Malignant is still available. I think it's available through the end of October on HBO Max. I'd recommend checking it out. I enjoyed it. If you're wanting, I don't know what you would want from a new horror movie if you thought this one was terrible, to be honest with you. I mean, I've seen some terrible ass movies in my day, and I would not. Yeah, I thought this one was pretty good.
Yeah, it's not a terrible movie, but like there's been people that have said horrible things about it, and then there's been people that have said like way too like great things. To me, it's like a B. It's like a B, maybe a B minus. Like if you had to rate it, like it's not blowing anybody's skirt up, but it's also not the worst of the worst by any stretch.
Yeah, it's definitely worth checking out, I think.
Yeah.
Give us the thumbs up.
Up you butt.
Like, subscribe. And if you subscribe, here's something else you can do. Once you subscribe, you can click the bell notification, right? And it'll notify you anytime that Dead Pit puts up new shit.
Or don't. I really don't give a if you do.
I want you to. I don't care. Let's keep our community growing here on YouTube.
I don't like it. I don't want you to do nothing.
Listen, they need to do that, pal.
No, don't you dare touch it.
Thumbs up. Subscribe. And click that bell. Thank you to all of our supporters on Patreon. DEADPIT on Patreon.com is the only place to check out a complete archive of the old Dead Pit radio shows all the way back from 2005 on, in addition to the midweek shows and fan commentaries, exclusive podcasts, and much more. Dead Pit on Patreon.com if you're interested. Tiers start at only $1.